yourself in the mirror and say, why are you only giving 50%? What's wrong with you? You need to put yourself on punishment. You need to tell you no more TV, no more snacks, no more dessert, no, we working out now. No more alcohol, not right now. I can't handle it right now. You need to tell you that you owe you something.
We are back with another episode of Inside the Locker Room, and today we got another special guest with us. And look, I know a lot of y'all keep asking, when's the next special guest? Look, we got him coming in today. We got guard out of Mississippi Valley and Michael James. How you doing, man?
Good. How y'all doing? Good to have you.
Doing good. We're doing good. And look, Michael, I told you this. Our goal is to get every HBCU on here. We want to show support for every HBCU, and that gets to all the SWAC schools, all the MIAC schools, all the small HBCUs. But just look, I told you, Mike, we wasn't gonna keep you here too long. So, Michael, just to kick this interview off.
First and foremost, let me say this. I say this to all players and coaches that come on here. First, Mr. James, we appreciate you so much for taking the time to come on here and be a part of not only HBCU Central, but be a part of Michael and Deuce at HBCU Hoops. The reason why we do this is to spread HBCUs around the country. Just basically from players to coaches, giving their insights on why they decide to play for HBCU, why, if they're transferred, why did they decide to leave a B school to come to HBCU? Because a lot of people, they don't think about HBCUs. A lot of people don't think about schools like Mississippi Valley or Grambling or Fairview, but there's talent in these schools. And it's guys like you is the reason why I reached out to you, because you are not only a SWAC player of the week numerous of times, but you have also a baller at Mississippi Valley. So this is the reason why we bring players like you on to understand that the HBCU vision and get people to understand that HBCUs, it's not just about, where you play, it's the legacy on where you play at. And, Mississippi Valley is a one of the most dominant HBCUs. I can give you grades like, Jerry Rice and all the above on guys that played in Mississippi Valley. And it's guys like you who are representing Mississippi Valley. And the future is that we're trying to make HBCUs as much bigger as schools like Auburn and Alabama. But my question to you is, to start this thing off, man, first of all, as a February 26th, Mr. James, you are a top offensive player in the conference. Recently, you dropped 32 points against Jackson State. So the question I have for you is performance and strategy. It's called high volume and scoring. You've had, I'm just going to jump straight into the question and what it's called. So, Mr. James, it's called high volume and scoring. It's kind of like what I asked you before. You've had multiple 30-plus point games this season, including a 35-point masterclass with 8 3-pointers and a recent 32-point performance. My question to you is, how do you maintain your offensive rhythm when defenses are increasingly focused on stopping
you? Pretty sure I just let the game really, but if I gotta feel that my team needs a bucket at times, I choose let my teammates set me up for open buckets, and which I've been seeing throughout the games. And it just really just hard work I put in every day. Just try to get ready for games, get ready for any type of defense they throw at me. So really much is preparation is the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say that, just piggybacking off of Michael's question. He mentioned that you're a top scorer in the SWAC. We've all seen the awards. We see it every week on that SWAC post. We always see that you're scoring 30 points, and you're actually leading the team in 21 points per games. But I just want to ask you, what has clicked this year, to take that step up as the team leading scorer, and just what has gone, from game to game. What is just the most competitive part about these games as the leading scorer?
I would say that's a hard question, but pretty much it's just I would say it's different compared to with JUCO last year. It's my first year in Division I, so it's just pretty much the speed of the game, the pace of the game. Really, I say what I just said, preparation, big things we do in practice just help me get confidence in doing the game. So it's just basically that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna touch back off what Deuce was saying. You're basically the player to depend on when it comes down to clutch moments, especially for Mississippi Valley. a lot of people, they don't respect Mississippi Valley. But what we tell people all the time is that Mississippi Valley is that school where greats came from.
Right.
And a lot of people, saying like, who's Mississippi Valley State? And I say, well, if you just take your time and do the research and just take your time and understand and learn the history on what Mississippi Valley is, you would understand. And a lot of people, they just don't think about, like I said, they don't think about HBCUs. They don't think about, Mississippi Valley. But it's guys like you and the way you perform day in and day out. Like I said, you've had multiple 30-point games. It's that, regardless of the team, it's just about the locker room that you have around you. But that also leads to my next question here. It's called leading a rebuild, Mr. James. So you mentioned when signing that you wanted to be part of the change at Mississippi Valley State University. Despite a tough record this season, how are you feeling? How are you and fellow veteran Daniel Mayfield keeping the locker room more at a moral high?
I would say we just try to really like pump up our guys. We just facing adversity right now. Like we facing ups and downs. Like as much as we bonded in the summertime, summer workouts and all that, it just our team just come close. We're close enough to know like what we can do, and like our coaches just prepare us so much in practice and push us so much in practice. Feel like we got that confidence and anything can just happen. The season can turn around. Like in the SWAC tournament, we all go. So you never know what happens. So we just really be ready for anything.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this: you never know what comes next. And I just want to ask you a question about this because you just mentioned to us that you played at JUCO and you're a newcomer to the Division I program in the Division I. So you mentioned that it was the competitiveness level is different. But my question to you is just, what is your advice to the younger guys or the players that are just looking up, to get that D1 opportunity from JUCO to Division I?
I would say, man, well, my brothers and sisters tell me every day, just work. No matter what, whoever's watching, just work. Like, you can be waking up at 4 a.m., no, everybody's sleeping, just work. Like, that's basically what it is. And just continue what you do every day. Like, love the game, study the game, all that. It just, everything gonna fall in line once you do what you gotta do.
Agreed. Practice, and I'm gonna touch back on what you said, Mr. Davis. Practice makes perfect. It's just all about having dedication for the sport, having dedication for the game. And Deion Sanders, he say it all the time that if I ask you, you want to be great, you're gonna say yes, right? But you can't just say yes. You gotta put it on. You gotta put it on the court. As soon as your 2 feet hit that platform, it's time. It's game time. It's time to lock in. It's time to get focused. And the more focus you put in, the more your performance is gonna add on to that. But my next question for you is, it's HBCU culture and excellence. I ask all players this, but my first question to you is, Mississippi Valley has a legendary history, and like I said before, including being the home of NFL icon Jerry Rice. On the HBCU experience for you, many athletes are now choosing HBCUs for their unique culture and the care for the whole person they provide. What made Mississippi Valley State University the right home for you compared to other schools that recruited you? You could have went to any other school, but you chose Mississippi Valley State University. Why?
When I came on my visit, it's just, it's the culture. Like, it really basically feel like I'm at home. Like, just when I first came here, it just felt like, hey, I can like picture myself with these people, like here, the environment, and just feel like I'm just a part of everybody. Like it's just family. Like everyone here is just family. Like even though the campus is small, everybody know each other. Everybody just like connect. So it ain't really no problems around here. It's just we continue to just connect well around here, basically. And yeah.
And I'm gonna say this before I pass the mic back off to you, Mike, because I pretty much asked all my questions. You mentioned that you felt welcomed at the HBCUs, and that's the one thing that me and Mike always talk about on the HBCU level is that players can come to the HBCU. You don't have to just worry, oh, am I gonna get playing time and all this? But HBCUs is like we say this for all players. That's just where it's at. That's where you're gonna get the opportunity. That's where you're gonna get to be able to feel welcome, to be able to like let your talent shine. And I feel like every HBCU does that because we see all these HBCUs breaking out and balling out. I'm gonna speak like for instance, Andrew Body over there at Alabama State. A lot of people, if he wasn't on this Alabama State roster, a lot of people wouldn't get to know how excellent a player he was. But that's why I just like your point that you made when you said that HBCUs made you feel welcome, mainly Valley, and Valley does not get enough love in the SWAC, and I think a lot of people can agree with that. Out of all the teams like Grambling, Southern, and Jackson, and Prairie View, Valley is one of those teams that needs way more HBCU love. But Michael, your next question.
Yeah, and I'm gonna touch base on that. Regardless of, like I said before, regardless of the record, Mississippi Valley is still a competitive school in the SWAC. They've always have been. There's nothing really changed about Mississippi Valley. But like I was just telling Mr. James not too long ago, and like you just said, even though we are a small campus, it's a lot of love. It's a lot of history behind just that campus in general. And I believe that Mississippi Valley. I'm not sleeping on. I tell people all the time, don't sleep on Mississippi Valley. Regardless of how it's looking, they are still a threat in the SWAC. That's why I tell people all the time, Mr. James, and it's guys like you. You really just said before. It's the connection that you have on that campus. It's the love at the end of the day. But my next question to you is, and I'm gonna leave it alone after this because I don't want to ask you too many questions. But as far as NBA goes, man, I got resources for you. According to Real GM, they list you as NBA draft eligibility for 2027. What are your primary areas of your game you are focusing on this season to prepare for that next level?
I would say my biggest improvement I need to improve on is defense, really, and more of a playmaking type. Because I know in an NBA level or any type of professional level, they're gonna want me to just guard the ball and like get my teammates involved, like, and try to be that role player they need me to be. So that's pretty much it, defense and just playmaking.
Agreed. Deuce, do you have any more questions? Because I got one more, but I did say I was gonna leave it alone.
Look,
like,
I tell when I come, like I try to hold Michael. I'm gonna give the mic to you back to you because look, I try to hold our guests to 2 to 3 questions max because trust me, if I don't want to burn y'all out with questions, I got a lot, but we know y'all on a short time frame. But Michael, you can ask your last question because, like I said, I pretty much asked it too. I really want to ask.
yeah, Lord forgive me. I know I said that I was gonna leave it alone at James, but I gotta ask you this question because I'm reading from my iPad here the questions that I have for you, and this is actually a really good one that I asked a lot of players. As far as transfer success, you previously spent your time at UAPB. I'm sorry, not UAPB. You spent your time at UAB and Murray State before transferring to Merdane Community College. What specifically about Mississippi Valley State University's environment allowed you to unlock this superstar? I put that in parentheses, superstar level of production for you.
Uh, Once I came here, I just felt like, well, from the past year, they had some great players too. But I just feel like it's a change need to be here. Like, we need to get the town and the city just involved into this university. Like, so I just pretty much try to put on the show to make people come out and support us, basically. And pretty much I'm doing it, and a lot of people's loving it. So,
Right, and then plus your Mississippi relative as well.
right.
And that's a huge thing. And not only that, I'm gonna tell you this because I don't know if you know this, but you're the first Delta Devil to win weekly SWAC honors in several years. So that's a huge accomplishment to you,
Thank
and and your success. So I congratulate you on that, man, and everything that you're doing, representing your state and the college that you chose. Because you could have went to Ole Miss or Mississippi State, but you chose to come to Mississippi Valley State University. So that is a huge accomplishment. And I, on behalf of me and Deuce, I'm proud of you for choosing the HBCU when you could have went to another bigger college because HBCUs need players like you. And it shouldn't take a transfer to understand HBCU legacy. It's not about playing. It's about pride on playing at an HBCU because you're added to the family. You're added to the history of what made Mississippi Valley the way it is today. So, on behalf of me and Dude on HBCU Hoops, we appreciate you for taking the time on being on here. I apologize if I asked you a lot of questions.
No, it's all right, man. It's all right. It's all right.
but but I wanted you to know we got you on here because we've been watching. We don't bring players on here just to bring them on here. We watch every player at every HBCU because your presence is helping us, get people to understand the HBCU vision that HBCUs are just as dominant as the D1 and D and all these bigger schools have in general. So we appreciate you for spreading your knowledge and thoughts, on what it means to play not only for HBCU but play for one of the most dominant HBCUs, especially Mississippi Valley State University Delta Devils. So we appreciate you for coming on today, man.
All right.
Thank
Thank you.
you
It's an
for yeah,
honor, man.
thank you for coming on, man. And you enjoy your day too, Michael. We're man. It's like this. It's like this NBA. I'm not NBA, but this college basketball season is going by fast. I mean, it's like 1 week we were already out of non-conference play, and now we're into in-conference play. But look, the biggest matchup that we've been talking about. We talked about this with Jonathan, Mr. Aku, who we had on back over Christmas break. Grambling versus Alabama A&M was going to be a matchup that look, it was going to be a matchup that both sides were willing to watch. So look, Coach Dante Jackson, Cavante Dozier, they all went over there to Alabama A&M. But look, us Graham fan, we feel like we got great replacements, and Grambling this season has had their ups and downs, but this season was one game I was looking forward to. And unfortunately, Alabama A&M, I'm not even gonna say unfortunately because here we show love to all HBCUs. And look, we said this when we had the Coach Kyle Jones on here. Alabama versus Graham was going to be a good one. It was going to be a back and forth game, and that's exactly what we got. And in the end, Alabama A&M came down the wire and won the game. Alabama A&M continues to prove why they're a team that you just don't really want to sleep on in the SWAC. And this team, besides Bethune, I feel like there's a lot of teams in the SWAC this year that you just cannot sleep on. Southern, Jackson State, FAMU, Grambling. I still throw them in there because Grambling can come in and give you buckets any minute, any given day. But Mike,
Yep.
what is your thoughts just on this Alabama A&M GSU game? Because look, Grambling is in the middle of in the conference. Grambling is in the middle, and Alabama A&M is kind of above them in the standings, not by much, but they're above
Yeah.
them. But what is your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, the game was what I anticipated to be very competitive, especially at Ferguson Ciable Assembly Center in Grambling, Louisiana, for the people that don't know where that assembly center is at. Um, Dudes, first of all, it was great to have the guy who made everything happen for Grambling with this time man. That's Coach Dante Jackson, which hopefully soon we'll be able to get him on here, and express his knowledge, and his experience coaching at Grambling and now coaching at Alabama A&M. But like I said, dude, this game was really competitive on both sides. But Alabama A&M just proved that they were the stronger team coming into Frederick C. Hubley Assembly Center. And Coach Dante Jackson, he well prepared them because let's be honest, most of his roster is Grambling players, or half of them are Grambling players. So they already know what to prepare for coming into the game. But Deuce, the recap, it's like I said before, dominant start. Alabama A&M set the tone early, jumping to a 5-0 lead within the first 2 minutes behind a transition three and a fast break layup by Contagious Dozier, who also I'm looking to have on here as well as our next special guest at some point. Halftime lead, the Bulldogs defensive pressure for its early turnovers, helping them build a 13-point cushion when it was 36-23 by halftime, while holding Grambling to just 24% shooting from the floor. Second half surge, Deuce Alabama A&M pushed their lead to its largest of the night, and that was at 20 points when they were 48-28 with 13 minutes and 32 seconds remaining in the second half. Tigers rally. Grambling State responded with a late run, cutting the deficit to 8 points with 3:21 left. However, Sammy Pissy and Contagious Dozier secured the win by combining for late free throws to strive. I'm sorry to strive out the comeback, or basically, in other words, prevent the comeback from happening. But uh, dudes, let me say this also. If I said Sammy's last name wrong, I do apologize. I don't try to pronounce what his last name is very often. But Sammy and Contagious secured the win by combining, like I said, late free throws and keeping the comeback from happening. Um, but before I go on and on with this, Deuce, I'm gonna pass the mic to you before I give you my key individual performance.
I'm gonna say this about the game. I with Grambling, it's just weird with like their team because I'm not saying like their team is bad. I don't even want to say that this loss makes them like seem like a bad team, but I don't. It's just like all season, Grambling has had their inconsistencies that you kind of see, and I'm
Mhm.
not trying to say too much, but like Grambling starting off the game really slow. You go into halftime down 36-23.
Right.
That's not good. That doesn't win you games when you're trailing behind. Um, and I'm looking at the box score right now. Look, Michael, I told you this. Grambling has to get more of their players involved when they're playing these games, right? And yes,
Mhm.
what you call it? Munoz, he did not play against Alabama A&M. He sat out. So, look, Grambling. I'm not gonna say Grambling necessarily played bad because they did as much as they could. But I mean,
Yeah.
let me name stuff like this: 3-point shooting got to be better. Free throw shooting has to be better. And I mean, when you get into a deficit like that, when you're missing free throws, and a team like Alabama A&M, who's a very good shooting team. Look, Michael, we talked about Contavious Dozier from Grambling, who is a very good shooter inside the paint and beyond the arc. So, and I mean, their shooters all around that Alabama A&M team. But for Grambling, let me say this: I feel like Grambling they start slow and then they try to play catch up. And yes, they
Right.
did that against UAPB as well and Alabama State. They try to play catch up, and just playing catch up ball does not work. Um, Now I'm gonna say this because I was thinking about this at the UAPB game. How you can't play catch up and continue to miss threes and then miss free throws and then expect to win and come back the second half. Yes, you can have a second half surge, but what does that mean if you're not making your shots? And let me say this: Grambling, they had another second half surge, but I mean the lack of scoring in this game and then the lack of just depth in this game compared to Alabama A&M's, in my opinion, is just what hurt Alabama A&M in the long. I mean, what hurt Grambling in the long run compared to Alabama A&M. Now, when the time comes and they do play each other again, and let me get this date really quick. And that's March 3rd. So you got a literal about less than a month away before y'all play each other before the SWAC championship. I mean SWAC tournament. If I'm Grambling, honestly, you come in with the full healthy roster because let's not lie, Grambling has not been fully healthy. Their basketball team has not been fully healthy. Each game they have some players missing.
Mhm.
So look, Grambling coming. If I'm Grambling, you take this loss, take it up on the chin, and you finish the season out. But you got to win these games because your seeding matters in the tournament. I'm gonna say this: it matters, but it doesn't at the same time because we see teams in the tournament go on streaks all the time, and
Right.
go to the tournament. So the tournament is its best team is going to win. But if I'm Grambling, I want to go into the tournament on a strong note. So that means stop losing games because Grambling has just now. Hold up. Well,
They're
let me
five
make
and
sure.
five right
Yeah, they're 5-5. They're 11-12 in total, 5-5. But look, you come in, look, and we talked about they went 0-3. They lost Bethune, FAMU, and Southern. Cool. But we said
now.
they had to bounce back after that, and they did. They beat Jack State Alcorn. They almost beat UAPB, but like I say, you can't beat a team by playing catch up ball. That's four games right there. That I mean, that's what that's Grambling could have been on a they could have went 3-0. They could have been 3-0 going into Alabama State, and they would have won that being 4-0. So let's just say this: Grambling could have came into Alabama A&M 4-0, coming into this game hot. But
Yeah.
no, although they came in against the win against Alabama State, no shade to y'all, is not like Alabama A&M. The teams are not the same. The two styles are not the same. If I was Grambling, honestly, I really think that loss to UAPB's kind of slowed down the momentum to the season.
Mhm.
Not fully, but it kind of like just kind of shook them a little bit. And also the lack of depth, which we got some players hurt. this game against Alabama A&M, that did play a factor. So that's just my take on that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna touch base on what you said before I give you some more game notes for you. Dude, it just seems like that Grambling just, and I said this, you know, that even with the weather permitting, you know, got a little break from that. It's it's now time to see, you know, where is this team at? You know, how they came in, because remember they came into the conference play 2-0, and then they just went flat ever since. But Deuce, we talked about this. We even talked about this at the Southern game. Is that you cannot shoot poorly from three. And excuse me, Deuce, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Grambling is just not a 3-point team to depend on, you know, very often. And I just also constantly think that Grambling is just not. They're not in the right fit right now. Like you said, with injuries, with shooting, it's just not there. I mean, I don't know how clear I can make this because it just seems like they've been falling flat. You know, here I was when they beat Alcorn, when they beat Jackson State. Here I'm thinking that okay, now we're on 2-game win streak. We're starting to find something a little bit. But then it kind of it started to be the same old thing to where we'll fall flat one game and we'll win one game and we'll fall flat again. You can't keep falling flat and expecting to win games while falling flat. It just doesn't work that way. That's not how basketball works. And honestly, I just constantly think, Deuce, that you know, hopefully Grambling can turn everything around with the tournament play. Because like I said, Deuce, the teams that are strong in the regular season, they often turn things around in the tournament. So hopefully, maybe in the tournament we see a different change in Grambling, even though this is Patrick McCreary's, you know, the first season as Grambling head coach. Normally, when it comes down to football, basketball, head coaches, they, in their first year, it's 50-50. It either goes good or it goes bad. And so far, it's been average for Patrick Curry. It's just more now like, it's just like, where does this season go from here? And, you know, the teams that they lost to, they get a chance to play those teams again. And it's more like, you don't want to get swept by the same teams that you lost to already.
And I'm also going to say this: when you do play them the second time, you know you should have a kind of a thought of why did we lose this game. For instance, against
Exactly.
Southern, like Southern, Grambling shot horribly from behind the arc. They shot mediocre from the field, and they shot average from the free throw line compared to Southern. And Southern, like you could go that for so you could basically do this for every game for Grambling. Honestly, Grambling is just I'm not trying to because look, Grambling, we saw how Grambling's style of play out of conference, non-conference games got us a good sense of okay, this is what this Grambling team is against harder opponents. So we see how Grambling can compete, and we've seen it time and time throughout these games. Look, I'm gonna say this: they may not win these games, but like against Bethune and FAMU, you watch it, you're like Grambling could win this game
Yeah.
against UAPB. Grambling could have won this game if they had not been trying to play from behind. And on top of
There,
that, they started chucking threes at the end of the game. So
there were a
like,
lot of games that Grambling could have won,
so
but
I'm saying this: Grambling is not to anybody watching. Says, "Oh, Grambling, they're not a serious team in the SWAC." I'm gonna say this: y'all thought that last year. Y'all thought that the year before, and what happened in the SWAC tournament? Well, the first year, 2 years ago, Grambling won the SWAC tournament and actually ended up beating Montana State in the first four and went on to play Purdue in the NCAA tournament. Then last year, they were just one game away from the SWAC championship, which I believe they would have won because I remember on the way to the SWAC championship, they beat Southern, and Southern had beat them all year last year. So look, when it comes time for the playoffs, it matters. But for Grambling, it never hurts to clean up and go into the postseason on a good note.
mm-mm.
You want to go in with the momentum, like, okay, this is the team that we need. The team's got a game plan for us. That's just my take on that. On
But see,
Grambling.
let, let, let me look at the roster right quick for you. Okay, so Grambling got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games left. Deuce, it's obvious at this point. Okay, it's obvious at this point. and let me sit right in my seat because I'm gonna make this clear as perfectly as I possibly can. Grambling can they either win out on these next 8 games. I don't expect Grambling to win all these games that I just listed out. I don't expect Grambling, to win against Bethune or Florida A&M, or maybe they might. There are some games here that Grambling can actually redeem themselves on, especially Southern. And I know if I'm Patrick Curry and I'm the Grambling men's basketball team, I'm not trying to get swept by my conference rival. Okay? Because here's the thing. Grambling football already lost to Southern, right? Now it's more like you don't want to lose 3-0 or 4-0 because if you want to count winning basketball, you don't want to go 4-0 with your conference rival beating you like that. So it's really now it's just that you got 8 games left. You have to win out. You have to win out. If Grambling loses more than 5+ games in these 8 games left, this season and going into the tournament, it's not going to look good. It's not going to end good for them. And it's not going to look good for them. Now, as you just said, going into conference play, going into the tournament, sometimes, like I just said before, a lot of teams are struggling in the regular season, end up being the most surprising team in the tournament. So, hopefully, if Grambling, let's say Grambling don't win out, right? Let's say Grambling win, 4 out of their 8 games or 5 out of their 8 games. Or let's say they lose out and they win the last remaining 3 games out of the 8. That does not determine how conference play is going to go. You have to understand, and may I suggest that you fix the problem that whatever is going on now, whether it's injuries, whether it's shooting, but like dude just said, you cannot play catch-up ball and expect to win every single game. It don't work like that. I don't care what nobody say. I know basketball. I play basketball. And I'm gonna tell you something right now. Playing catch-up ball, it ain't good, and it ain't easy, especially when you're playing a good shooting team like Alabama A&M. But dude, let me also tell you this right here. I don't know how clear I can make this. You cannot go 4-24 from the 3-point line and expect to win. Dude, Alabama A&M shot 39% compared to Grambling 17. I'm sorry, but that if that is a turning point on why Grambling lost, then I don't know what is. But not only that, but Alabama A&M percent lead was 97 compared to Grambling 0. Dudes, Grambling did not lead the entire game. And then not only that, the largest lead was 20. I'm sorry, but you cannot come out of halftime. You already came into the game flat. And you can't come out in the second half flatter than you came when the game first started. So, dudes, it's a slow pace going on with Grambling, and it's starting to show. It showed in the Southern game. It showed in the Bethune-Cookman game. It showed in the Florida A&M game. Now it showed in Alabama A&M game. And dudes, we said this before the game even got to here, is that hopefully Grambling can be on their P's and Q's coming into this game and shoot better and play defense better and rebound better. Obviously, they rebounded better. It was negative. It was 33-33. They limited their turnovers. They made Alabama A&M have 14 and Grambling had 12. You shot better for a free throw line. You shot 89% compared to Alabama A&M 71. But like you just said, dudes, you cannot shoot the way you did and expect to win. You cannot go 15 or 50 with that 30% from field goal range. Alabama A&M had 42%. That's 21 of 50, dudes, according to ESPN. So you cannot expect to win like that and play catch-up ball. Dudes, Grambling have to get to a point where they have to make teams catch up to them instead of them catching up to whoever they're playing. That doesn't work like that. You can't come into the game flat every game because the more flatter you come in, you're gonna lose. And it's been happening, it's caused losing results because now they're 5-5. And the reason why they're 5-5 is because of the flatness that they've been bringing onto the court. And that's the exact reason why. And like you said, Deuce, injuries. I honestly think that, but even with injuries, regardless of how many injuries you have, it's next man up mentality. And if you don't have a roster that can, if you don't have a roster or a player that is next man up mentality and step in when his name is called, then that's a problem. That's a problem. That's not only a problem for your roster, but that's a problem for your team, your record, your conference play.
Yeah,
That's just the bottom line.
yeah, and look, I'm gonna say this really quick because Grambling is just like where they're at in the standings. They're not at the bottom of the standings. They're just like right in the middle of the standings. And I'm looking at it right now. They're right behind the Jackson State team, FAMU, Alabama A&M, and Southern. Look, the one thing about basketball from football is, see, basketball, we always worry about like the top two teams go to the conference championship. In the
Mm-hmm.
basketball, everybody gets to compete for that championship spot. So look, yes, your regular season matters, but you get a little bit of grace because you get to prove your worth in the postseason. But look, because we are on a time crunch. Look, I did have was wanting to talk about Bethune Cookman, but look, we already know about Bethune Cookman. They're continuing to dominate as the week goes on, and we said this at the beginning of the season after their Auburn game. This Bethune Cookman was going to be a hard team, but the last topic that I will just want to jump to is Tuskegee, because they're a team that has not been getting a lot of love in their respective conference, and they are one of the smaller HBCUs. And to the ones that actually don't know, oops, my fault about that. To the ones that don't know, Tuskegee and Grambling actually have a lot of history together. Look, Tuskegee, what's called band director came to Grambling. Hutch came to Grambling, so that's how they have their connection. But the one thing, Tuskegee is 16-3 on the year in conference play, and that is a lot in part due to just the overall offense and defense of the team. And look, Michael, do you have anything you want to say about Tuskegee really quick, or I can just go ahead and get my rundown about them?
You can go and give your rundown about them because I actually did have some notes for them. And I'm trying to find it now, but you can go ahead and continue, man.
Yeah, so look, recently, and look, if it looks like my camera is weird, it's because I'm looking at the screen. I'm trying to go along and do this, but recently, look, you gotta look at it. Coming into this recent game against Benedict, they won 71-65. But I will say this recently, they did just lose to Morehouse 69-77 in a close game. And I will say this about this Tuskegee team. They're a team that they're not winning in the flashiest ways, but they're winning down the stretch. They're going to be the team that is going to take you to the final buzzer. In the games they do lose, it's been by 3 points. They lost Fort Valley State on this January 22nd by 3 points. They lost to Morehouse by 8 points. So this team is a team that I'm gonna say this. You don't want to sleep on, and I know I don't have a lot of details too much on Tuskegee because honestly, the site that I'm looking up off of the Tuskegee actual site, it's not like ESPN. But let me just give you a quick rundown of the last game against Benedict. Look, so hold up. The Tuskegee men's basketball team earned a hard-fought 71-65 road victory over Benedict on Saturday afternoon at the HRC Arena, using a strong first half and timely execution down the stretch to secure a SIAC victory. Look, I always talk about you got to shoot well to win. And look, I'm gonna give my props to the game leader. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce it right, but Kazame Draper, number 21 out of Tuskegee, 22 points. And the one thing about Tuskegee, this game against Benedict is they were very efficient shooting the ball, shooting the ball and free throw shootings. Now, the one thing that Benedict did have on the upper edge was the 3-point shooting. They slightly outshot them in the 3-point shooting. But let me keep reading this from the article. Kazami Draper led all scores with 22 points for Tuskegee, shooting 9 for 16 from the field and adding 4 rebounds and 3 assists. Khalil Greenrod followed with 17 points, knocking down 3 shots from beyond the arc and going a perfect 10 for 10 at the free throw line. What did I say, Michael? Making your shots is what wins you the game. And that's the thing that we kind of see with Grambling. They don't go 10 for 10 at the line. And I know these are two different teams, but that just gives you over inside of that. But Benedict was led by Christian Willis, who scored 14 points, and Tariq Anderson, who added 13 points. Landon Jeffries and Caleb Henson chipped in 10 points apiece as the Tigers shot 47% from the field. Benedict finished the game with 25 rebounds, 27 bench points. Tuskegee had advantages in the points in the paint, 30-26, and fast break scoring. Tuskegee look, they may have not won in the flashiest way, but one thing about Tuskegee is they can score the ball. And we keep seeing this from this article. They can score the ball. They can score from the free throw line, from the 3-point shooter, from the arc, from in the paint. The Golden Tigers improved to 17-4 overall, 16-3 in SIAC play. With the win, Benedict falls to 8-10, 8-10 in action. And look, Tuskegee returns to action next week as they play Spring Hill next week. So look, about Tuskegee, like I just said, offensively, they're a very offensively efficient team. And look, the defense, it's not the flashiest defense in the league, but they're going to take you down to the until they finish the game. But Michael, what are your thoughts on this Tuskegee team?
Yeah, and I'm just gonna touch base on what you said. I just finished my notes on that. So I'm actually kind of glad that you were able to finish that on your end. But yeah, the Tuskegee University Golden Tigers men's basketball team improved to 16-3 in the SIAC play. 17-4 overall after a hard-fought 71-65 road victory over Benedict College on Saturday, February 7, 2026. Key game highlights, Deuce, is I do apologize if I don't pronounce these things correctly, but Khalil Grinwhite led the Golden Tigers with 17 points, shooting a perfect 10 of 10 from the free throw line. Derek Bolton III added 11 points, and RJ Walker contributed 9 points and 3 assists. Team efficiency, Deuce. Tuskegee shot 47.8% from the field and an impressive 81.5% from the free throw line. Statistical advantages. The Golden Tigers controlled the interior, outscoring Benedict 30-26 in the paint and 13-7 on fast break, while maintaining discipline with only 12 turnovers. Conference dominance. Like I said before, this win followed a decisive 76-57 victory over Allen University on February 5th, further solidified Tuskegee position at the top of the SIAC standings. Like I said, Khalil Glenwright also excelled in the matchup, scoring a game high 21 points. Deuce, and looking at the conference record, like I said, Tuskegee 16-3 overall, 17-4 overall. 16-3 in conference record and 17-4 overall record. Excuse me. Benedict is 8-10 in conference record and overall record. Allen is 3-14 and 4-15 overall. So the Golden Tigers continue their road trip tomorrow, Wednesday, February the 11th, against Spring Hill College at 7:30 p.m. So, dudes, Tuskegee is just proving that they have ballers over there and that they are very competitive at what they're doing. And this just shows you that the tournament play Tuskegee has specifically locked their number one seed spot in the tournament. Now, immediate impact on tournament play. If you were to ask me what does this mean as far as tournament play, glad you asked. Like I said, they clinched the top seed, but the 16-3 record, Tuskegee holds the best winning percentage in the SIAC West Division, sitting ahead of rivals like Miles College. This likely secures them the number one seed in the West. Automatic bye. Dudes, under the current SIAC tournament format, the top seed in each division receives a first round bye, which also means the Golden Tigers will skip the opening round scheduled for February 28th and advancing directly to a quarterfinals at the Clayton County Convention Center in Morrow, Georgia, starting March 4th. Home court advantage. And excuse me, let me backtrack a little bit. I know I said before I mispronounced that. It's Clayton County Convention Center. If I say that correctly, I probably didn't. So I apologize if I didn't. But jumping gears here, home court advantage, opening rounds. While later rounds are a neutral site, top seeds typically host opening round games if they weren't granted a bye. But since Tuskegee has clinched a top tier spot, they avoid the road warrior path and enter the tournament with maximum risk. NCAA tournament resume. At 17-5 overall, Tuskegee is a strong candidate for an at-large bid to the NCAA Division II tournament if they fall to win the SIAC title. Excuse me. Their dominance in conference play boosts their regional ranking, which is primarily a matrix for NCAA selection. Now, key factors diving into their dominance. Defensive stature. Deuce, write it down. Tuskegee ranks near the top in the league in scoring defense, holding opponents to just 63.4 points per game. Star power. Forward. I don't know how to say his name. I think it's Kasami Draper and guard Khalil Greenwright, who recently scored 21 points against Allen University, provided veteran leadership needed for a deep postseason run. The Golden Tigers have 4 games remaining in the regular season, including a high-stakes matchup against Miles College on February 14th. That could officially seal the division title. So now it's just more like, can Tuskegee maintain their dominance with just these 4 games remaining? Can they win out? Can they continue to dominate? Because right now, they're in control of their own destiny right now. Mm-hmm. If they win out, that's important. Because like I just said, that secures the top seed in the SIAC tournament.
And see, at least it's not like how it is in the East. Because, Clark Atlanta is currently neck and neck with Morehouse at 14-5. Michael, you mentioned that top seed is important because that's what gets you the home court, bro. Look, honestly, if I'm Tuskegee, you mentioned how they've been rolling on a momentum train all season, and they only have a few games left. The season's coming to a wrap. Close the season now, Sean. You go into tournament play, and look, hey, you fighting for a top spot, and you can win this conference championship. And honestly, look, shout out to the teams like Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, and Savannah State, Fort Valley, Miles. Look, I'm gonna say this. One thing about the West Division, it's a little bit weaker compared to the East Division, but I'm gonna say this. That doesn't take away from what Tuskegee has done on the court and off the court. But look, we do have to wrap this podcast up because we are getting on time. But look, to the ones watching this, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. We're at 317 subs, and I said this on our last video with Ben. Get to 320. Our goal is 350, and we're making good progress. And if you want to see more athletes, and if you want to see us cover your school, make sure you just DM that us in the comments. And look, we love the feedback and the engagement we have in the comments. And look, to the ones watching last week's episode, make sure you get that like up and make sure you get the views up to over 100. But Michael, do you have anything else to say before we close this podcast out?
I'm gonna say this. I know we didn't have time to touch on Livingston College, but let me say this: Livingston College basketball is currently navigating the heart of the 2025-2026 CIAA season. Both programs are fighting for positioning as they approach the CIAA basketball tournament in late February. There's the men's Blue Bears. They're 8-14, 4-8 in conference record right now. Recently snapped a 5-game losing streak with a thrilling 85-82 overtime victory over Winston-Salem State on February 10th, 2026. So, Deuce, it's more of like Livingston is fighting and they're trying to fight back to get involved in tournament play in this coming up late February.
And the one thing about Livingston is they're not a bad team. They're really not. They're just a team that's right on the outside looking in. Yeah. And look, I wish that we would have more time to talk about them. And look, Michael, I'll tell you this. We may have to do a full episode cover dedicated to the smaller HBCU schools like Tuskegee, Livingston, really dive into the smaller, just do a couple episodes for the smaller HBCUs. But yeah,
Agreed. But
honestly, I just think in the SIAC and the CIA are two HBCU conferences that if you're not too much familiar with, and me and Mike are still really getting into this conference, so you got to bear with us. We're still learning about this conference ourselves, but this is a pretty interesting conference. And like Michael sends me HBCU clips from these videos all the time. These games go down to the wire. They go down to the final possession. They go down to like the last 3 minutes. And these, Michael, you just showed me a one from Savannah State. They just hit a game-winning half-court shot to tipping. It was a tipping, I believe, right?
yeah, it was a tip in.
Tip. So look, that's if you're not watching HBCU sports, and as much as it doesn't get as much coverage, you're missing out. I'm gonna say
You're
like
missing
that. You're just missing out because this is pure content. This is good. This is good entertainment for the ones that are not watching.
That's why we do what we do, dudes. That's why we created HBCU Central. That's why we decided to do HBCU hoops and football, because HBCU, basketball games and football games and softball games in general. 'Cause we also gonna get into that very soon. It's exciting. It's a lot of electricity in these arenas and assembly centers, whatever you want to call them. Just like that game with Albany State, just that simple tip in, and just how electrifying it was in that gym. It just shows you that HBCUs are just as exciting, especially when the band gets involved. So HBCU game day action, you do not want to miss. I highly encourage you. If you don't know anything about HBCU basketball, football, softball, soccer, whatever it may be, I highly encourage you to watch it, because I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Because HBCU's game day environments, it's like no other. I'm sorry, but the bigger schools, they got nothing on these HBCUs, especially when it comes down to game day. That's why me and Deuce do HBCU Central. That's why we do this podcast, because we're trying to get HBCUs out there and get people to understand that it is more exciting in HBCU world than it is outside. So, but let me also say this last thing, dudes. Even though dang, I can never say this name right. Even though to Tuskegee, even though they possibly will be the number one seed, the Golden Line State, even though they might have home court advantage, it doesn't matter, because it just takes the right team to knock you out in your home court. So right now, I'm glad that they would get the number one seed, but I'm not gonna sit here and say, regardless of their conference record, regardless of how they are this season. One thing about tournament play, that's kind of why they call it March Madness or February Madness or HBCU Madness. Let's just say that. When it comes down to HBCU Madness, can I just suggest that home games don't matter? It don't. In tournament play, it don't. I don't even care if, Tuskegee get the bye. That still doesn't take them out of the category. It still doesn't give them an easy shot. Because there have been a lot of teams who have home court advantage and lose that, dude. So now it's just more like, can this team, can they continue their dominance like they've been doing and transition it on to conference play? Can they continue what they've been doing? Because the teams that they beat, dude, they're going to come back and want to beat them. They're going to come back with more hunger and more thrive and probably more better shooting. That's the thing about college basketball, and especially tournament play. You can never sleep on anyone in your conference, because just because you beat them once or twice, that don't mean you're going to beat them again in tournament. Because tournament, that's a whole different category right there. I'm just saying. That's just bottom line. So hopefully Tuskegee can continue to do what they've been doing. But make no mistake, don't say I did not tell you so, because we will be watching these tournament plays. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of ready to see how these tournament plays, play out. But
I'm gonna
I
say this.
Tuskegee need to control themselves.
Honestly, if you're a top team in any of these conferences, you're playing with the target on your back, because these teams want to come in and beat you and knock you off your own home court. But look,
Exactly.
as the weeks progress, we'll keep hyping up these tournaments coming up, because they are conference tournaments are coming up at the end of the month, because like we said, March Madness is only a few weeks away. And to our teams, we are hoping that one of our HBCUs gets the final spot, because that's just how they like to rank our HBCUs. We get a final spot in the first four or the bracket. But look, like I said before, before we almost, and I lost my train of thought. Like I said a couple minutes ago, if you haven't, get us to 320 subs, and please share as much content as you can from Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and also I just started up us up a X account, and also get our HBCU Central page up in general, like the actual HBCU Central page up. When you follow Inside the Locker Room, follow HBCU Central. When you follow HBCU Central, follow Inside the Locker Room, and follow all of our co-hosts, because this all works together in one. But look, this video will be up on YouTube, Instagram, and make sure you look to the ones reposting our Instagram clips. Make sure you keep reposting it and keep sharing it, because we want as much guests as possible. And if you have a guest that you have in mind, put them in the comment section so me and Michael can reach out to them. And if you have a school that you want us to cover, put it in the comment section. We will cover it. And like I told Michael, we will just be eventually coming up soon. We will do an episode dedicated to the smaller HBCUs, so we can really get and dive into them. But pretty much that's all I had to say. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. And thank you for watching this podcast. And Michael, do you have any closing remarks?
No, we appreciate y'all so much for coming on. As far as HBCU Central, try to get us to 200. The goal is to reach, 100 after 100 after 100 every single time we reach a milestone. So then we're at 133. We appreciate y'all for getting there in just days, not months, but days. So we appreciate y'all, and get us to 200. We're at 133, 134 maybe. Get us there. And like Dude said, when you follow Inside the Locker Room, you follow HBCU Central. When you follow HBCU Central, you follow, Michael and Mike Sports Talk. You follow Deuce and Sports Talk with Deuce, Adam, and Ben all together. Because this is all one. This is all one team. There isn't no separation. There isn't, even though we do our own thing with HBCUs, this is still powered by Inside the Locker Room.
Yes,
so,
it is.
Make sure not only are you subscribing, but you're liking and that you're following. And like you said, if there's a coach or a play that you want us to do, comment down, drop a comment on our YouTube channel, on this episode in general, or on HBCU Central. We're more than welcome to get coaches and players. We're trying to get more coaches and players involved. And also let me say this: we will be doing softball and baseball at some point. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But Deuce, that's all I got. But Michael, go ahead.
I forgot. All right, we have our Edward Waters interview coming up soon for our HBCU spotlight. I'm not Edward Waters. We got a Winston-Salem spotlight. Yeah, Winston-Salem Solemn, however you pronounce. I'm sorry, I will get that figured out before our spotlight. We do got that coming up, and we have a couple more interviews down the month at the end of the month. But me and Michael are not going to say it yet, because we want to leave it to the element of surprise. But make sure you stay tuned to all the content coming up, because look, despite last week being a short week, we have content planned for the rest of the month. But as always, thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share, and peace out.